Jayson Tatum suffered a torn Achilles during the fourth quarter of Game 4. Tatum was having his best playoff performance thus far, eclipsing 42 points on 16 for 28 shooting. The Celtics confirmed that Tatum has already underwent surgery. There's no timetable for his return. All right, Wendy back here with us. Stephen A., starting with you, though. What's at stake for Boston without Jayson Tatum?
Well, a lot from this standpoint. Number one, I believe it takes about 2 full years, Wendy, to fully recover from an injury of this magnitude. He could get back on the court, not next season, but thereafter, the season after. And I think that, he could be somewhat productive. To be himself, the Jayson Tatum that we've been seeing all of these years, to come close to that, I think it's going to take a legit 2 years before he can get back. I'm talking about strictly from a health perspective. In that period of time, you already have a $300 million player. Suddenly, remember how we were all speculating that, you got these 2 guys on your roster, somebody's going to have to go. Well, that may not necessarily be the case now, because if you're the Boston Celtics, okay, well, who's going to replace Jaylen Brown? Because you can't just easily let him go. You could do that when you thought about Jayson Tatum being there and available for you. But now that that's not going to be the case for the foreseeable future, all of a sudden, Brown is in the eye of the storm. And then when you look at the rest of the team, look, Porzingis has health issues now. You really think Porzingis is going to be around in 2 years? I'm not sure he's going to be a Boston Celtics in 2 years. I'm not sure about anything right now, outside of the fact that I'm looking at Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Okay, they could be around a couple of years from now when Jayson Tatum come back, but how productive are they going to be? Jaylen Brown was getting his knee treated coming into the playoffs. And Drew Holiday is better than solid. And him and Derek White are both champions. But you just don't know. I think the Boston Celtics, I think the best and the safest thing to say is that the Boston Celtics, as presently constructed, what we saw throughout this season is no more. You won't see that starting 5 together again. Pieces will be moved. How they'll move it, what level of productivity, what level of compensation, rather, they'll get in return, we shall see. But I think that what's at stake for the Celtics right now is, simply put, their future. Because what we've seen from them is no more. Because Tatum's not going to be there. By the time he comes back ready to go, I don't think the team as presently constructed will remain intact.
Wendy?
Yeah, so throughout this entire season, there's kind of been this storm off the horizon with the Celtics. And frankly, Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens and Wick Grusbach, their governor, have done a very good job of keeping the focus on the season, which the Celtics were great. They had 61 wins. They looked like they were a strong favorite to repeat as champions. They didn't let this bother them at all. At least I never saw it, or I never felt it bother them, that they had this financial cliff next year. And the reason it's a financial cliff is that they hit the repeater tax, and Jayson Tatum's contract comes on. Tatum signed the $300 million extension. It comes on board. That wallops them into the tune of about between 450 and 500 million. For 2 or 3 years, the Celtics have known that in 2025 that was coming. And they knew that they sort of had this window, which is the reason why they brought everybody back to go all forward with it. And they wanted to handle this business after the season. Well, because of the Tatum injury, now all of a sudden it comes in focus and it's on people's minds. Because I agree with you, Stephen A. I don't think that you can bring this team back next year, not because of their competitive nature and how they've been built. One of the things that's amazing about this team is that they're all together, they're beautifully constructed, and they're all signed. They're actually all under contract with the exception of Al Horford. That's a beautiful job by the front office. And then there's the variable that there's a new ownership group. We don't know how these owners are going to spend money. What we know is that they're going to be buying it for $6 billion. And that it's taking a coalition to buy it. So there's just all this uncertainty. I would not sit here and tell you I know what's going to happen. But I know this. You can't spend $500 million on a team that's not a championship team. And without Jayson Tatum next year, which is what you have to assume, I don't think they're a championship team.
Yeah, listen, number one, I understand Achilles, but I've seen enough athletes bounce back from it. Rodgers did. Durant did. I got to go look at Kobe when he had it. Kobe Bryant. I don't know how the years were, if there was a big drop-off. I have to go back and double-check that, but he did too. I'm expecting Tatum to recover, right? I mean, is he going to be 100%? Maybe 95%. But I do think he's going to recover. The timeline, I heard Stevie say this morning with us with our conference call, probably 16 months. I think you'll see him sometime, in the early part of 2026. I think as long as Brown is there, you will be able to build your team with the two players. They're two great players. You need two. Cleveland didn't have two. Major problems. Oklahoma City doesn't have two. We'll see how they handle it. You need two. They're going to have them there. The surrounding cast, Wendy's a lot better about this than me. I don't know all this salary cap implications things with White and Porzingis and Holiday and, even Pritchard. I don't know all of that stuff, but they're going to have the two of them there. And if you have the two of them there, you're off to a good start. You'll be able to figure out the ins and outs as long as those two are there, and you assume that Tatum is going to come back normal, quote unquote. And I think that will be the case. So next year is a disaster. How they handle next year remains to be seen. They'll be competitive. Do they want to blow it out and just kind of buy a year? I'm not sure if they're going to do that. But I think in 2 years, that would be a very, very good
Well,
team
I'm told there's major advancements, obviously, in technology and what have you. And the belief is it's possible that he could come back sometime late next season, even be ready for the playoffs. I can't see that happening, but I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. I would just tell you that my experience, Wendy, I'm not trying to imply he can't be back on the court. I'm talking about when can he look like Jayson Tatum. I believe that's going to take the season after next in order for him to pull that off rather than next season. If I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected.
Yeah, so next year you're gonna count as a write-off.
That's what Durant did, by the way. It was impacted. Durant's the greatest recovery for a basketball player of Achilles in the history of the sport.
Absolutely.
And if you remember, and it was impacted by COVID, he had the injury in June of 2019. He didn't come back until December of 2020. So he gave it a whole year plus. And so if he's the model, I think that's an interesting thing to contemplate.
Absolutely. All right, looking at what's happening right now, guys, on the Knicks side of things, where yesterday Big Perk had this to say about their title chances.
Matter of fact, the Knicks, after they close this series out, they going to the NBA Finals. Now, I think Indiana's going to push them to 7 games. Look, they going to the NBA Finals, man. Once they close out the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks are headed to the NBA Championship. And I'm going to take it a step further. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all, to be honest with you.
If they win it all, okay. Stephen A., what chance do you give New York to win it all?
I think this is the best chance that the New York Knicks had of winning the championship in over 30 years when they went to the finals against Houston. That went 7 games. I love John Starks, always will. But it's hard to me to this day when I see him because 2 for 18, 1 for 11 from three-point range, a championship on the line. I'm a New York Knicks fan. It hurts. We love John Starks, but damn it, it still hurts, okay? Because if he hit some of those shots at Pat Riley and remember that Rolando Blackman was on his bench, you know what I'm saying? That's what you got him for. I mean, don't get me started. Let me digress. Let me just move on because I'm just losing. The memories are just hitting me and I'm getting angry. So I don't want to do that. I'll focus on the present, and I'll tell you this. When they went to the finals in '99, we knew they had no chance against the Spurs. When they were trying to make a run and they went to the semifinals and they lost to the Indiana Pacers and Roy Hibbert and all of those guys, we knew that the New York Knicks weren't good enough. When they had Carmelo Anthony, we knew they weren't good enough because LeBron and then win the East and stuff like that. Got it. But when you look at this New York Knicks team right now as the Final Four approaches, and you see that even though the Pacers can beat them and they're incredibly talented, they have some vulnerabilities defensively. I can see that being a 7-game series and the New York Knicks bring them to the Garden for a Game 7 again with all bodies healthy. Let's see what happens this go round. And then you look out west, you anticipate that even though the series isn't over, OKC will probably beat Denver. I would have OKC as the favorite. I think Minnesota's going to close out Golden State tonight. I would have Minnesota as a favorite over the New York Knicks. But all of them are beatable. It's not like you're looking at them the way that you looked at Cleveland in 2007 when they went up against Tim Duncan and the Spurs. You knew that wasn't going to be a competitive series. When you saw folks going up at Cleveland going up against Kevin Durant with Clay and Stephen, you knew that wasn't going to be a series, okay? But you look at the Knicks against the Pacers and against either OKC or Minnesota, assuming they both close out their series, you could give the Knicks a chance. I'd give the Knicks a 40% chance of winning either series. Again, I'd have Minnesota and OKC favored over the New York Knicks, and I think the Knicks and the Pacers are a pick 'em. But this is the best New York Knicks chance since 1994.
I don't want to be a killjoy because I want New York to experience this. Saturday, the city was alive. That day of the playoff game was alive. I loved being in New York that day. Perk, you can't focus on the Pacers and you can't focus on the finals. They got to beat the Celtics one more time. I'm not saying that they won't. I believe that they will win the series, but this assumption that this series is over, I just think is flawed. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to insult the Knicks. I believe in them. They have one more win to get. Stop talking about who they're going to beat in the conference finals. Stop talking about who they're going to beat in the finals. They've got to win one more game. Then let's have a discussion.
Well, Perk just did that because Perk is salty because, he's a Boston Celtic, won the championship with them, and he's very annoyed at what he saw. That's what that's about.
I would make OKC number one right now because I think they will beat Minnesota with the home court. They've played pretty well after that first game, and you have to make them a favorite over the Knicks. You have to. I'll put the Knicks number two, because I would make the Knicks a favorite over Indiana. And Steve made a great point. I'll make this quick on 94, and Steve knows better than anybody. The better Knicks team was 93.
Yes.
That was the best. They won 63 games.
And Jordan.
Hugh Evans made that call on the foul, and then Charles Smith couldn't make the tip in. They should have won that series against the Bulls. That is the best Knicks team that you and I have seen since we've been around.
Absolutely, but that's the problem. See, they went up 2-0 on the Knicks. I'm on the Bulls.
Yeah, they did.
And they ticked off Jordan. And then they won it.
And
they won. That's right. And Van Gundy talking junk,
Especially going down to Atlantic City.
Exactly. And then they was the scandal, like, oh my goodness, Jordan is gambling. And I'm sitting there, and I'm literally, Molly, I'm just getting out of college, and I'm like, will you please shut up? Stop writing these stories. Leave this man alone. Don't tick him off, okay? And that's exactly what they did. They were writing these stories about him in Atlantic City. All right, losing what to him equated to $1. You understand what I'm saying? He making more money, but it equated to $1.
It was after 5 o'clock in the morning, but so be it.
Oh, after 5 o'clock in the morning. So
still
what?
Still showed up. Still delivered.
Yeah.
NBA,